The Dark Files. I'm Emily Sweaters.
And I'm Kasie Cardigan.
And Barb is about to eat my salad.
Yeah, Barb is all up in your stuff.
I think Barb used to be an alley cat because she will eat literally anything. Like, I think she used to have to forage for her food. Sorry.
Oh, she probably did.
Like, one day I left a bowl of soup out. And
She's eating the microphone.
I came back, and she had taken a piece of the meat out of my soup.
Wow. So she probably was an alley cat.
But now she is just nosy. Okay.
Guys, for those that are wondering, Barb is Emily's cat.
Yeah, Barb is my daughter.
Right. And she's currently eating the microphone and sniffing at my computer. So
Casey
if you're
is
hearing
being
noises,
very patient because she's allergic to cats.
Yes. And dogs.
And dogs.
It's super fun life. And they get worse the older I get.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It's a fun thing. Anywho.
So today we are opening the dark file of the Sodder family.
Da da da!
So, before we jump into the Sodder family, let's crack our claws.
Ready to crack that claw.
No, I was not in sync.
That's all right.
I have a mango today.
I have a black cherry. Today is the start of my fall break, everyone, so I am celebrating.
I'm jealous.
3 days not working.
I'm very jealous. Okay, so Sodder family.
I'm excited.
So Kasie, what, if anything, do you know about the Sodder family?
Okay, because I do remember you told me this last week, and I remember they have an episode on BuzzFeed Unsolved about them, and I kind of remember bits of it, but I don't really remember it entirely.
Yeah.
So I feel like during the course of you telling the story, I'll be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that.
So first, I'm going to cite my sources.
Emily,
up top.
Cheers to you.
Thanks.
Right
Cheers.
from the top.
So my primary source was an article from Smithsonian Magazine called "The Children Who Went Up in Smoke."
Damn.
And also Wikipedia, but then I also watched some YouTubes. I watched BuzzFeed Unsolved, Ryan and Shane.
Shout out Ryan and Shane.
And I also watched Bella Fiore. Have you ever watched her?
No.
She's like a lot of true crime, cult conspiracy stuff. I believe she's in like Australia or New Zealand.
Oh, cool. No, I've never heard of her.
So those are my sources. So we will begin.
Okay.
George and Jenny Sodder were Italian immigrants living in Fayetteville, West Virginia, when their house caught on fire on Christmas Eve of 1945.
Okay.
So they had 10 kids. And 9 of them were at home. Their oldest son was serving in the war, so he was not there. So of their 10 children, 9 were in the house. And so they were having like a nice Christmas Eve. Everybody's hanging out. And they were going to go to bed. And some of the kids asked if they could stay up late to like play with their new toys and stuff. And the parents said, yeah, whatever. So mom and dad go to bed. George and Jenny go to bed. And about 12:30 in the morning, the phone rings.
Okay.
Jenny, the mom, wakes up and answers it. And she hears a woman's voice that she doesn't recognize. And this person asks for an unfamiliar name. Like, they asked for somebody that didn't live there.
And what time in the morning?
12:30.
Okay.
So Jenny's like, you have the wrong number. That person doesn't live here. In the background, there was, like, laughter and, like, glasses clinking. It kind of sounded like there was, like, a party happening. And told her she had the wrong number and hung up. So, before she had gone to bed, she had told the kids that they could stay up and play with and hang out with their siblings and play with their new toys if they turned all the lights off, locked the door, shut the curtains, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, she notices, after she wakes up at 12:30 and answers this phone call, that most of the lights were still on in the house. Curtains were open, the front door was unlocked. She's just thinking, like, my kids are just little shits not listening to me.
Yes.
So,
probably, yeah.
And one of her daughters, her 17-year-old daughter, Marion, was asleep on the couch.
Okay.
Okay. So she just assumed that she had fallen asleep on the couch and the other kids had gone upstairs to their bedrooms. Okay. And she locked the house up, turns the lights off, and goes back to bed. So she's falling back asleep. It's around 1 a.m. at this point. She hears a loud bang, which seemed to be coming from the roof. So it was like a big bang on the roof and then a rolling noise. And she's like, okay, that's weird. But she didn't really think much of it. So she goes back asleep. About an hour later, she's awoken again by smoke billowing into their bedroom.
I can't believe she went back to sleep.
I know, my anxious ass. I will also say, one of my, like, true biggest fears is a house fire.
Yeah, I get that. But if you hear banging and rolling, I wouldn't think house fire. I'd think, shit,
like somebody's attacking us or something.
Okay.
So, while I was researching this, I had many anxious thoughts. This is, like, my biggest fear. So she wakes up
and it's smoke.
And the house is on fire. And they were able to get 4 of the 9 children out of the house, okay?
Dead or alive?
Alive. Okay. So there was 17-year-old Marion, who was the one asleep on the couch.
She got out.
2 boys, John and George Jr. John was 23 and George was 16. Their bedroom was on the 2nd floor, but they woke up early, and they ran out and, like, singed their hair. Like, that's, like, how close the fire was to, like, their bedroom door. So they just got out in time. And then 2-year-old Sylvia, who slept in George and Jenny's room because she was the baby. Okay, so George Jr., Marion, John, and baby Sylvia escaped alive.
Okay.
So George assumes the other 5 children.
So the parents are alive.
Parents are alive. 4 kids are alive.
Okay.
But there's 5 kids still in the house.
Right, because there was a million of them.
He assumed, so there's 5 children, ages 14 to 6.
So the little ones.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there was Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty. He assumed they were still upstairs in their bedrooms. But the staircase was engulfed in flames and he couldn't get up there.
Right.
So he runs outside. This is our boy George. Barb, I need you to stop. Come here. Sorry.
It's all right, guys. Sorry, Barb is slowly attacking my purse.
No, she shouldn't.
Which I don't care, but Emily's now mad at her because she's doing things.
Well, she's just so disruptive. Now she's going to scratch the couch up. Whatever.
Oh, she was already scratching the couch up.
Oh, yeah. That's just her nightly routine.
Okay. Sorry, guys. We're back.
Sorry. Rewind. Or...
Okay.
So George, the staircase is engulfed in flame. George is like, fuck, I gotta go. So he runs outside. And they usually had a ladder that rested on the side of their house.
Just per usual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not my choice. And
because then the other side of me would be like, somebody could break into my house.
Yes. So he goes to get the ladder to climb up to their bedroom windows to get them out. Ladder's gone.
Oh.
So then he worked in, like, the coal industry. And he had 2 coal trucks at his house that I guess were tall enough that he thought he could maybe climb on top of them to get to the window.
Okay.
He's got 2 of them. Neither of them start.
No way.
Yeah. And the day before they were fine. So, remember, it's Christmas Eve, so it's December. They had a, like, rain barrel, I guess, to collect rainwater.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell these old people did, but...
Well, they collected the rainwater, and then they would use the water.
Oh. Well, then he's, like, desperate at this point. He's freaking out because 5 of his kids are still in the house. So he goes to the...
It's not like they have cell phones to call 911.
Exactly. But so he goes to the rain barrel in, like, a desperate attempt to try to, like, scoop some of the water on the house, and it was frozen solid.
Oh, no.
So...
This is so sad.
It's so sad. So Marion, 17-year-old daughter, she runs to the neighbor's house.
Good.
And she's like, call the fire department. Nobody answered.
No one at the fire...
Nope.
The neighbors didn't answer? The fire department?
The fire department didn't answer.
That's weird.
So another neighbor saw the fire and called the fire department. Also didn't get an answer. So this neighbor drives down into town to tell alert the fire department. And they initiated this thing. It was a phone tree system where you call one firefighter, they call the other, and so on and so forth. But because of the war, they were very short-staffed.
I forgot about the war.
And it was Christmas Eve. So I guess they didn't really keep a lot of people on staff on the holiday anyway.
Okay.
So remember, this fire broke out around 1:30 in the morning.
Right.
Fire department did not get there till 8 a.m.
No.
Yeah.
What?
And by the time they got there, the house was just like a pile of ash.
8 a.m.?
8 a.m. This fire... So they said that the fire burned only for about 45 minutes. And the house was, like, completely decimated in that time. Oh, my God. So, at first, George and Jenny assume the other 5 kids are dead. As you probably would, right?
Right. Anybody would.
However, search of the grounds on Christmas Day found no human remains.
Really?
And the fire chief said that the fire wasn't hot enough to completely, like, cremate their bodies. Like, there should be bones still.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so a state police inspector came and determined that the cause of the fire was due to faulty wiring, like electric stuff. So George, in his grief, made probably a pretty serious mistake and filled the basement, because the basement was still standing, with 5 feet of dirt.
Why?
Because they just couldn't stand to look at the rubble and what was their house, and he wanted to make it as, like, a memorial to his kids. So he, like, wanted to plant flowers in it and that kind of stuff.
Is no one concerned about where the children are?
Well, I guess because of just, I don't know exactly, like, miscommunication. Even though the fire chief was like, yeah, I don't think that it was hot enough to burn, they still concluded that they died.
In the fire.
Yes. So, 5 death certificates were issued for each child, with the cause of death being fire or suffocation.
Okay. But they have no bodies.
No bodies, no remains.
And then he poured dirt on top of what was the house.
Yes, as like a memorial to them.
Okay.
Okay. So, the Sodders begin to wonder if their kids could still be alive.
Sure.
Right, because there's no remains found.
Mm-hmm.
So,
God, 5 of your kids at once.
I know, isn't that so sad?
Ugh.
It's
and he's
a very
trying
sad
so
story.
desperately to save them.
Yeah. So, in the months leading up to the fire, there were some pretty strange occurrences that happened that at the time seemed harmless, right? Just something that you would brush off, whatever. Mm-hmm. But in retrospect, George and Jenny began to really wonder if these might be related to the fire.
Okay.
So, the first thing, a few months before the fire, a stranger appeared at the home asking if there was any hauling work to be done. I guess back in the day, you just show up and be like, got anything for me to do?
Oh.
And
all right. Nice work ethic.
Yeah, nice work ethic. So this guy, he saw that there was these fuse boxes on the outside of the house.
Okay.
And pointed at them and said, this is going to cause a fire someday. And George thought that was weird because just a few weeks before, he had the whole electrical system inspected, and they found that it was in perfect working order.
Oh, snap.
So he was like, that's weird that he would say that, like, whatever.
But, so even, disregarding this random dude, although I know you're not going to, because he obviously is relevant, but...
Yes.
So he had his whole electrical stuff checked, and even then it still had a fire.
Yes.
Okay. That's terrifying.
Isn't it?
Okay.
So, around the same time, another guy appeared at the house and was trying to sell them life insurance. It's like a door-to-door salesman.
Yeah.
As you saw when you got here, I had a Spectrum salesman.
Is that who that guy was?
I had Barb in one hand and a bottle of ranch dressing in the other. And I was like, hello. And I was like trying to stand back because I didn't have a mask on. And he's like, do you have Spectrum? I'm like, no, I don't. Please go away.
And I don't want it.
And I've got a cat and an open bottle of ranch dressing in my hands.
I have other things to do.
Anyway, door-to-door salesman selling life insurance comes to the house, trying to sell them life insurance. They decline, and this guy gets pissed, saying, your goddamn house is going to go up in smoke. And
what?
Your children are going to be destroyed. You are going to be paid for the dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini.
Wait.
No.
What?
So, George and Jenny were Italian immigrants, like fresh off the boat.
Okay.
Like, I think they got here when they were like 13, 14, 15. And so there was a really active Italian community in Fayetteville, West Virginia, which who would have thought?
Who? Not me.
And I also wonder if they Americanized their name, because Sodder's not Italian.
Yeah.
It was like Sodderino.
That's definitely what it was. Sodderino.
I just made boiled noodles and poured pasta sauce on it, and I think I'm Italian.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So they were a pretty well-respected family, among the Italians in Fayetteville, West Virginia. They were very, like, solidly middle class, well-respected, hardworking.
All right.
However, George was very outspoken about his dislike for the Italian dictator Mussolini.
Fair, because he's a dictator.
Yeah. But I guess at that time during World War II, you know, some Italian Americans were, like, in support or in favor of him. But George was...
They were in favor of Mussolini, or, like, they didn't want to talk about Italy?
They were in favor of Mussolini.
That's interesting.
Isn't it interesting? But he would, like, sometimes get into, like heated arguments with people about it. Like, why he didn't like Mussolini, and... Which, you know, I can understand.
Yeah.
But anyhow...
Okay.
So that happened. And the Sodder sons that survived, George Jr. and John, they noticed a guy parked across from the street from the house one day a few weeks before the fire, intently watching the younger children as they came home from school.
Oh my God.
So
there's 3 creepy people.
3 creepy things happening. So the official report said the fire was caused by faulty wiring, but when George and Jenny woke up and got all the kids out, the lights were still on.
Right.
So if it was caused by faulty wiring, the lights wouldn't be on. And so a telephone repairman told the family that their lines appeared to be cut, not burned. So it looked like somebody, like, cut the wires versus, like, them burning up in an electrical fire.
When did they tell them that?
Afterwards.
After they already said it was faulty wiring?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So a witness comes forward reporting that he saw a man at the scene of the crime, like the day before, with a block and tackle, which I have no idea what the hell that is. But apparently it's used for removing car engines, which would explain...
A block and tackle?
Yeah, I don't know anything about cars. My air pressure, tire pressure, like, comes on whenever it's cold.
Well, some of that's normal, because it, like, shrinks, the cold shrinks the size of the tire.
I know, but it's annoying.
Yeah, it is. But if it keeps staying on, then you probably need new air in your tire.
Probably. It comes on in the morning when it's cold, but then when I drive home, it
that's
comes
pretty
off.
normal. I'm going to say that as an official mechanic. That's normal.
So, yeah, block and tackle, which is used for removing car engines, which made them think, like, maybe that's why the cars didn't start that night, the coal trucks.
Because they saw somebody over there with that.
Yeah, a witness came forward saying that. And one day, while the family would, like, visit the site, like, pay respects to their kids, Sylvia, the youngest, found this, like, hard rubber object, which upon inspection, they realized was a pineapple bomb. Do you know what a pineapple bomb is?
No, but it sounds like a really good fruity drink.
It does sound like a good fruity drink. It was a napalm pineapple bomb, which was commonly used in warfare. So it's like this, like a hand grenade almost. So
does it look like a pineapple?
It's kind of like, it's got like a pineapple type like body, and then it's got this. It doesn't look like a pineapple so much, but it's got like the thing where you detonate it off, kind of like looks like a pineapple. Like the leaves of a pineapple. I can show you a picture. So they started to wonder, was that what she heard hit the roof?
Oh shit!
And roll down.
She heard, and then it rolled down. Yeah. All these things are coming full circle.
I know, it's crazy. So shortly after the fire, reported sightings of the kids began to roll in. One woman said she saw the missing kids peering out of a passing car while the fire was still burning. Another said she was working at a tourist stop about 50 miles away, that she saw the kids the morning after the fire. Another woman working around the same area said that the kids, she served them breakfast at like a restaurant, and they were accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all of Italian extraction. I don't know how I feel about that phrase.
Okay.
And she said that they were acting real weird. Like, the adults appeared hostile. The kids seemed like they were friendly. She tried to, like, be nice to them, you know, like you do. And the adults were, like, very, like, short with
and how do they know it was the kids?
They don't. It's just, like, whenever there's a missing person, right? But,
like, 5 kids is a lot of kids.
Exactly. So, these seem, like, pretty credible, saying because all of them were there. So, in 1947, so this fire happened in 1940, like right at the end of 1945. 1947, George and Jenny sent a letter about the case to the FBI. Mulder and Scully.
Mulder. Oh my God, I can't even speak. Mulder and Scully.
And they asked for their help. Like, something's not adding up. We don't.
All of these weird things are happening. Yeah.
And so they responded and said, quote, although I would like to be of service, the matter related appears to be of local character and does not come within investigative jurisdiction of this bureau. The agents said they would assist if they could get permission from the local authorities, but the police said no. Isn't that sketch? So the FBI is, like, offering them their help to, like, dig into this a little bit more, and they turn them down.
I'm not super surprised by that because I feel like, and this could be just in, like, you know, those, like, mystery romances that I read, but I feel like there's often conflict if the FBI comes in with the cops because the cops are like, we don't need other people coming in and taking over and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, like, super surprised.
Right. And sister's FaceTiming me. Okay. So, next they turned to private investigator C.C. Tinsley.
Okay, that name rings a bell. So a lot of this is ringing the bell, but I also think there was another episode that I watched where another house caught on fire.
Was that when the woman spontaneously combusted?
No, another house
that
fire.
One's crazy.
That one was crazy.
So, yeah, they find this private investigator, C.C. Tinsley, and here's where things get real saucy.
Oh, I thought they were saucy when the guy said, for talking shit about Mussolini.
That's the guy.
Oh, snap!
Well, that's not, we don't have it confirmed. But,
okay.
So, C.C. Tinsley discovers that the insurance salesman,
oh, yeah, that's what he did.
Who had threatened them, was a member of the coroner's jury that determined the fire was accidental.
What?
Yes!
Shady!
I know, right?
I'm confused by a coroner's jury.
Yeah, like, I guess, like, I've never heard of that before either, but I guess maybe if it's, like, a matter where it's kind of up in the air, they have a jury to determine cause of death.
Like a jury of just random people? Because I don't, like, no offense to you, but you don't know anything about electrical fires. I wouldn't want you to be the one that determined.
I don't know.
Right? Just, I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, it's a good question. Yeah. So, C.C. Tinsley also hears a story about the fire chief.
Okay. This is the PI, right?
Yeah, the PI.
Okay.
So, although the fire chief had told the family no remains were found, he supposedly confided that he found a heart in the ashes and that he buried it in a box at the site. So, they go and find the spot where he said he buried the heart, and they dig it up and took it to a funeral director.
Okay.
Funeral director.
Why a funeral director?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess this was before, like, forensic investigators. But he said it was beef liver. It wasn't a human heart. It was beef liver. Untouched by the fire. So what they think is...
beef liver.
What they think is that they buried this thing hoping to pass it off as a heart so they could bury the investigation that the children were still alive. So, like, planting evidence, basically.
Okay. When did they plant the beef liver? Like, if you're before, like, recently when the PI started coming around?
No, like...
like, as soon as the murder.
I think, like, shortly after it happened.
Okay.
So...
yeah.
So, over the next few years, leads and, like, sightings continue to come. And George sees a picture in the newspaper of school kids in New York City. So they're in West Virginia, remember? Mm-hmm. And he's convinced that one of them is his daughter, Betty.
That would be so sad.
Yes. So Betty, I believe, was 6 years old when it happened.
Okay.
So he drives to Manhattan in search of this kid. But he is convinced it's his daughter. He gets there, finds her, but the parents refuse to let him speak to her. Which, if it's not Betty, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, this rando shows up. But if it is Betty...
that's creepy.
That's weird. So, In August of 1949, the family decides to try a new search at the fire scene and brings in a pathologist from D.C. named Oscar B. Hunter.
All right, Oscar.
So Oscar is excavating the site. So George, in his grief, pretty much covered up all the evidence.
Which is so awful, but it's also hilarious.
And they find several small objects.
Okay.
Damaged coins.
Mm-hmm.
A partly burned dictionary.
Okay.
And this is the real kicker. Several shards of vertebrae.
Okay.
Okay. So Oscar B. Hunter sends the bones to the Smithsonian Institution,
Mm-hmm.
which
Bones! Where the show Bones is.
Is it?
Yeah. Have you never seen Bones?
I have never really gotten into it. Lauren loves it.
I love Bones.
I always tease her and say that the doctor's name is Dr. Bones.
No, that's not his name.
I know.
It's Dr. Temperance Brennan.
Dr. Bones.
No. He calls her Bones. You should watch it. Everybody watch Bones. It's really good. Okay, so they're at the
So
Smithsonian.
they send the bones off for examination. And they find... I'm going to read this directly, okay?
Okay.
The human bones consist of 4 lumbar vertebrae belonging to one individual.
Oh.
Since the transverse recesses are fused, the age of this individual at death should have been 16 or 17 years. The top limit of age should be about 22, since the centra, which normally fuse at 23, are still unfused. On this basis, the bones show greater skeletal maturation than one would expect for a 14-year-old boy, the oldest missing Sodder child. It is, however, possible, although not probable, for a boy of 14 and a half years to show 16 to 17 maturation.
Huh.
So
the bones belong to someone really between 16 and 22 at the most.
Yes. Yeah.
But that wouldn't have been one of the kids.
No, because the oldest that was missing was 14. So they say it's possible, although not probable, for it to be his.
And they're saying that because he's too young.
Yeah, because of the way that, like, your bones grow and are, like, fused at that age.
Okay.
So that's suspicious, right? Like, these probably...
Yeah, then whose bones are
Exactly. So the vertebrae showed no evidence that they had been exposed to fire, too, which is also a pretty...
Oh, well, that could be, like, the number one thing. No fire? Okay.
And it's very weird that no other bones were... There's 5 human bodies missing, and you only found shards of one vertebrae.
Right.
That's weird.
From a kid that
older.
Doesn't even match the description of the kids.
Exactly.
Whoever's planting this evidence needs to do a better job.
Yeah. So the house, remember, only burned for about 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So they said it was... You would expect to find full skeletons of these people.
Right.
Because, like, I know, like, Hopper, who's on my mantle, my cat that is cremated, that they burn that shit hot and for, like, hours.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna Google the temperature.
It's hot. I mean, obviously.
It's hot. It's hot. Temperature to cremate a body. 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit.
I can't even fathom how hot that would be. I burnt my wrist on my toaster oven last week at 350.
Oh,
yeah, really
that's...
weird.
Wait, that's crazy. 350 and they burn a body at 1,800?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those don't even go up to 1,800.
So you would definitely be finding bones.
Yes. So, the bones, the report concluded, were most likely in the supply of dirt George used to fill the basement to create the memorial for his children, which I feel like is another problem in and of itself.
Okay, wait, sorry, say that again?
The bones were probably in the dirt. The shards of vertebrae they found were probably in the dirt that George used to fill it.
So there's just another dead teenager somewhere. Okay, also, fun fact, guys. I just Googled it. I Googled how hot does a house fire get. It says in only 3.5 minutes, the heat from a house fire can reach over 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm.
In rooms that are not even on fire, the temperature can reach over 300 degrees.
No thanks.
So, in theory, they would definitely be burned, but most likely there would be some bones for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just had to get the numbers in my head.
Yeah, for sure. So, after all this happens,
I already know what the title of this episode's gonna be.
What is it?
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Okay. So basically the authorities and like judges and stuff say, look, this is hopeless. You've been doing this for years. Case closed.
Case closed.
But George and Jenny are like, no, my children are still alive.
Oh, they're still holding out that they're alive.
Yes.
Shit.
So they put up this big ass billboard along Route 16, which I guess is a route in West Virginia.
All right.
And passed out flyers offering a $5,000 reward for information about the kids. They soon increased the amount to $10,000, which could buy me 2 big boy statues.
True. Where you would put these 7 feet tall statues? No.
Front yard. Yes.
That's taller than us. That's tall.
I know. I can't fit in this house. It's got to go outside.
You can put it in your backyard.
Front yard. And then I could dress...
One in the front, one in the back.
I could dress it up for, like, different seasons. Like, give it a Santa hat.
Guys, for those of you that don't know, Emily's trying to buy...
I'm no longer trying to buy them because they're $5,000.
Frisch's big boy statue.
I've been emailing with Frisch's marketing team all day.
And one of them is 7 feet tall and it's $5,000.
Yeah, definitely not in the budget. But if I had found the Sodder Children, I could have afforded it.
Could have.
If I had an extra $5,000, I probably shouldn't spend it on big boys.
Probably pay off your porch.
Porch is paid.
Oh, nice.
They haven't cashed a check yet, but... Anyway, I digress. Put up the billboard, increase the reward amount to $10,000.
Okay.
They get... Whenever you have, like, reward money, people are gonna...
Give crazy...
wild-ass tips. So they get a tip that there's a woman saying that the oldest girl missing, Martha, is in a convent in St. Louis. Another tip comes in from...
Martha.
I know, right? Another tip comes in from Texas, where they overheard somebody talking about what happened in a bar, and incriminating somebody. Like, you know, you just like get all these like tips.
Mm-hmm.
So someone in Florida claims the children were staying with a distant relative of Jenny's. So poor baby George, the dad.
Okay.
He investigates all these tips.
No, George.
So every time a tip comes in, George will go wherever and, like, investigate it.
He sounds like a really good dad.
Yeah, he does. So in 1968...
Oh my gosh, what is that? 23 years?
23 years. Jenny gets a piece of mail addressed only to her. Mm-hmm. And it was postmarked from Kentucky. But it had no return address. Sketchy. Inside was a photo of a man in his mid-20s. And on the flip side, in a note read, Louis Sodder, who was one of the missing kids. Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. ILIL boys. And then it has, like, all these, like, random, like... It says A90132 or 35. Like, it makes no sense. Other than the first name, Louis Sodder. Okay. So, the picture, they said, looks just like their missing son. Now, what I will say is that, like, I feel like when you want to see something, you see it.
You see it.
So, not denying that it didn't look like him, but I think when you're hopeful, you really, like, see things that, you know, might not be legit.
Yeah. And if you have, like, I feel like if you have very dominant traits, like dark hair, dark, you know what I mean? Like, things like that, people probably would mistake you.
Yeah.
Or you could look like a lot of different people.
So, Louis was 9 at the time of the fire. So, they said, like, beyond, like, the dark curly hair and dark eyes, they had the same nose, same, like, eyebrow situation. Like, eyebrow.
Situation.
So, these poor people hire a private detective.
Oh, no. But the age doesn't even make sense. He'd be in his 30s.
Yeah. They hire a private detective, sent him to Kentucky, and they never hear from the private detective again. So he took their money and just ran.
That's so sad.
Very sad.
How do they keep coming up with this money? They must have good jobs.
I mean, yeah, they like it said that they were like very like solid, like hardworking solid middle class people.
Yeah.
So they kind of came to the conclusion
The parents did?
Yeah. If the kids are alive somewhere, they are not coming forward to protect the rest of the family.
Oh.
So, they updated the billboard to include this picture of Lewis, allegedly Lewis, and hung an enlarged version of it over their fireplace.
Well, because they really thought it was him. Yeah. What if it was a total random dude?
It might have been.
But that's as long as they gave him hope, I guess.
So, this is a quote from George in an interview. "Time is running out for us, but we only want to know. If they did die in the fire, we want to be convinced. Otherwise, we want to know what happened to them." George died a year later in 1968. Still hoping against hope that they would figure out what happened.
Oh, poor George.
Jenny, this is just a sad story. Jenny built a fence around the property. So obviously they moved and got a new house, whatever. So she built a fence around her property and began adding rooms to her home, building like layers between her and the outside.
What?
She just like built like this giant house to keep the outside like to keep her like in and the outside out.
Okay,
Like
a
some
little agoraphobic.
Yep. Since the fire, she had worn only black.
Damn, that's a diva.
She's in mourning.
For 23 years? I mean, I get wearing black if it looks good on you. Yeah. But, like, own that then. Like, I look skinnier.
So, from 1945 until her death in 1989, she only wore black.
I mean, that's pretty baller.
The billboard came down. You have to pay, like, monthly to have a billboard
right.
up. But her kids and grandkids continued the investigation. The whole family, like, was in on this. Like, they all believed that the children were still alive somewhere.
Well, I guess it makes sense because the ones that survived were older, weren't they? So they lost their younger siblings, which would be so hard.
Yeah, except Sylvia, the baby.
Yeah,
but everybody else was older. So the family has like several different theories. So one would be the local mafia had tried to recruit him, and he declined. So they got back at him that way.
Okay.
They tried to extort money from the family, and the family refused.
The mafia did?
Yeah. The children were kidnapped by someone they knew, someone who burst into the unlocked front door, told them about the fire, and then offered to take them someplace safe.
That's
merit. Legit.
But the sister was asleep. Wouldn't she have heard somebody coming into the house?
You would think.
But then again, my sister's a pretty sound sleeper, so I am too. Mm-hmm. So I would probably just be passed out.
So.
Okay.
And then again, like, if they are alive and if they've lived this long, and if it really was Lewis in that picture, they haven't contacted the family only, like, out of wanting to protect them.
Or they don't know.
Yeah.
They, like, blocked out and they don't know who they are.
That could also happen. So, Sylvia is the only surviving Sodder child. So she was Sylvia. The 2-year-old. And...
she'd be close to my grandma's age.
She is, so this, she's like in her 70s, early 80s. She doesn't believe her siblings died.
She doesn't either?
No, none of them do. None of them did. When, this is actually really cute, when, like, she has free time, she, like, gets on, like, crime websites, like, you know, Reddit and, like, conspiracy theories, like, trying to figure out, like, what happened. And
Sylvia, be our best friend.
I know. She says when she was 2, her very first memories are of that night. And so one of the things I forgot to mention was that when George was like climbing up the ladder and trying to get the coal trucks to work, he sliced his arm open on something and was just openly bleeding but not stopping because he was freaking out. And she said that's like her first memory is like her dad running around over the place with this gaping wound.
Trying to save her siblings.
Yeah.
Emily, shit. This is a sad story.
It's a downer. But I do think it's very, no matter what happened, it's so sad. Like, if they died in the fire, that's terrible.
Well, if they died in the fire, one, that's just terrible in general. But then for them to spend their whole lives and all this time searching for them, only for them to be dead.
Yes. Or if they were kidnapped. Or, because, you know, he was running his mouth about Mussolini. Maybe it was. I mean, it's suspicious.
I always tell people, Don't run your mouth about Mussolini.
But, like...
No, all of that stuff is very suspicious.
The fact that the guy was on the jury...
Oh!
That's suspicious.
For sure. See, to me, I feel like there's definitely something going on. It was, like, somehow plotted. Mm-hmm. But what I don't get is why they would take some of the kids, or maybe they, like, I wonder if whoever, there was a plot of some sort, mm-hmm. The initial plan was, let's burn down the house, maybe. Mm-hmm. Then they go to see it and they see that there's kids awake there.
Yeah, and they feel bad.
Maybe. And then they're like, hey, look, there's a fire. Come out. We'll help you. They get the kids out. The rest of the house is burning. So they're like, fuck it. They're all sleeping. Mm-hmm. And then they take those kids. Because didn't you say somebody saw them?
Yeah. Like somebody said that they saw them in a passing car when the fire was still burning.
So maybe they took them and they thought, and they told the family, like they told the kids that their family was dead.
Could be.
Or something like that. Now I need to go find out what happened. Did they have any leads at all?
No, they never had any leads. Well, part of it is because like they didn't have a lot of cooperation because it was officially deemed that...
Yeah, that's shitty.
That they died.
Do you think the cops were in on it?
Maybe. I'll tell you. I don't know much about Fayetteville, West Virginia, but the Italian mafia, they're everywhere.
They are. They were in Newport.
Yeah. Did you ever see Goodfellas?
No, but you know what I do love?
Goodfellas pizza?
Yeah.
Henry Hill, the guy that the main gangster in Goodfellas, at the end, he, like, narcs and goes into witness protection. And you know where they sent him?
Where?
Independence, Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean...
Last place you'd expect him to be.
I wouldn't expect them in Independence, Kentucky, either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Emily, that's a really sad tale.
I know. I'm sorry.
That was really sad. Everyone died.
I know, and I don't know that we can say case closed because the case really
we can't.
Closed.
I was just thinking that. I was like, "What? We can't even say case closed.
Case open.
Case still open." That's how creepy it is.
So yeah, that's a bummer. But very interesting. Definitely recommend watching the BuzzFeed Unsolved. Because
I love Shane and Ryan.
When Ryan like says like the thing about the guy being on the jury, Shane's like, case closed.
Case closed. I mean, that is literally the most suspicious thing.
Yeah.
He was there running his mouth about Mussolini, saying, "Don't you run your mouth about Mussolini."
Yeah.
He was on the jury. I bet he was involved. I think my theory has some merit to it.
Yeah. I would say I think the kids probably were kidnapped. But I don't know what...
Maybe they were going to have them held as ransom.
Maybe. Yeah.
But then they decided not to. And then they killed him somewhere else later. Or they just had him grow up somewhere else.
Have you ever seen the Netflix documentary, What Happened to Johnny? Gosh.
I have not seen that documentary, but I have watched other things about Johnny.
It reminds me of him.
Because there was a rumor that he showed up
at his mom's house. Mom swears to God
it was him.
It was him. Yeah, it just reminds me of that. It's like this...
I mean, I can't say that. I'm not a parent. I feel like... I would like to think my mom would know it was me.
Yeah.
I realized you can tell because I have... Remember how we were talking about... I don't know if you remember last week we were talking about your sister said your identifying feature would be your foot.
Yeah.
Mine is my birthmark. I'm not going to say where it is, people, in case somebody remembers
your tattoo.
Oh, yeah, and I have a tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is identifying
Maybe
feature.
I should get a tattoo so somebody can find me.
This is Emily. Double. Yes. Okay, Emily, so I guess, what do we say in the case of the Sodder family?
Case open.
Case still open. All right, stay spooky, bitches.
Yeah.